Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another episode of the strategy series. In yesterday's video, we talked about many of the events that are coming up that were announced for the 2022 organized play season. And the whole point of the strategy series is to help you guys get ready for whatever events you guys are planning on attending, as well as meet whatever competitive goals you guys are looking to complete, whether that's top your first regional or just, become a better player at your locals, right? That's kind of the whole point of these videos, as well as the coaching that goes on over at the Patreon if you want to check that out down in the description. But that's really where I got the idea for this video, because through coaching and through talking to players and whatnot and just seeing people play this game all the time, there are a lot of things that I realized that I think would be very helpful for the mass amount of players to just be made aware of, talk about, and kind of go through the details of, right? So in today's video, we're talking about making plays that make sense. A lot of times I do see novice and even intermediate players that have been playing for a while, but maybe they haven't delved into the competitive weeds yet. I do see players making these types of mistakes, not really thinking about the plays they should be making. And one thing that's going to be kind of like the tagline for this video is, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. There should always be a pathway of logic that follows whatever play you're looking to make. And we're gonna go over several examples in today's video that you guys should be able to apply to a bit more of like a broad spectrum. But anyways, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video. And if you guys want to support the channel, since we're talking about competitive play, coaching, and whatnot, make sure to check out the Patreon down in the description if you guys are interested in coaching, or if you guys just want to subscribe, help support the channel, and read the competitive articles that I do post there. Anyways, let's get started with the video. All right, so again, we're talking about making plays that make sense. Whenever you are playing a game of Dragon Ball Super, it could be as simple as your turn one, or it could be as complicated as your kill turn. Whatever you are looking to do on that turn, every single play you're looking to make, even decisions of what and how to combo, there should be a pathway of logic that follows why you're doing what you're doing. You don't really want to just make plays needlessly if you want to, kind of climb the ranks and get better at this game in a competitive sense. You want to make sure you're doing that. Even when you're doing something as simple as comboing a 5k to not take a damage, you should strongly consider what the most useless card in your hand is before comboing that card, because God forbid next turn you're looking for that same card in your hand, like, oh, why did I combo that? That's a really simple example, but now I want to go into a more in-depth example, right? So if you guys watched last week's coaching video, I was playing U7 Goku against Novin's Gogeta Xeno. And this is a scenario that actually I think on both sides is very interesting to look at. So there was one scenario at which I was at 5 life and Novin's playing an aggro deck, right? He's playing Gogeta Xeno. So I'm at 5 life. He's got one more attack for the turn. The logic behind attacking my leader there is that it puts me to 4. And then his next turn, he'll have a much easier time applying pressure because, typically once you get to 4 life, you're kind of like in the danger zone, and you're going to see a lot of players start to spend resources, negate, combo, super combo, whatever, to try and avoid going below 4 life. That's just something that will happen frequently because once you get to 0, you lose the game, and 4 is kind of like that middle point, right? So, yeah, we talked about this scenario, and I actually told him it probably wasn't correct to attack me and put me to 4 life, because that's one extra card I get to see in my hand going into my next turn. And if you're playing an aggro deck to its highest capabilities, what you really want to do is set up your kill turn. It's not always about putting your opponent as low a life total as you can every single turn. It's not always about that. You want to make sure that your opponent is denied the right amount of resources, and then when you're ready to go in, you're able to just shoot them maybe from 5 to 0 and do it like that. But even though it's only one card that he's giving me, that really can make or break a game in the long run. I could draw my Goku boss monster off my life. I could draw a super combo. I can get so many things off my life that he just didn't have to give me. There was no real reason to put me to 4, especially when his deck is very capable of doing 5 damage in one turn plus that, right? But so now let's go to the flip side, because there's actually a play that I think I made a mistake on, and I'm totally gonna call that out here. So I attacked him on my turn 2, put him to 6 life, and then I played my Piccolo Unison because I wanted to draw a card, start establishing resources, and then I attacked him and put him to 5 life. So my thinking behind that was exactly what I talked about before. I thought that by putting him to 5 life and then the following turn on my turn 3, establishing a lot of my very cheap U7 guys, I would have been able to put a lot of pressure onto him that following turn. But the one thing I guess kind of didn't factor in, of course I know that Gogeta Xeno can self-awaken by attacking, but I didn't quite realize the big tempo turn he was going to have, which again, you guys can see in that coaching video, that he'll be able to do by awakening on turn 2, which I practically let him do, right? There was no real reason for me to attack with Piccolo Jr. except for the reason that I laid out, which would have been to apply additional pressure onto him the following turn because he would have been at a lower life total. But if I would have just not swung on my Piccolo, he would have been at 6 life. His leader would have attacked, maybe taken a life if he wanted to, and that could have forced him to spend 1 more energy on a True Fighting Spirit, Vegeta or Goku to swing, take a life, and get himself awakened that way. So yeah, there was really no reason for me to swing with it that way, and that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying, you know, make sure that every play you make has a line of logic following it. And in that case, I had a line of logic, but it wasn't the correct one, right? So that's what you want to make sure as well. And as you get more experience, you'll figure out the correct and incorrect plays. But it's always important, even if it's the wrong play, to at least have a reason for why you did it, especially when you're kind of starting out in the competitive landscape. All right, we got another scenario here. So let's say I'm playing a green deck. My leader is Gotenks, or really just any leader that draws a card. Then you have 2 of your battle cards in play. Fuse Zamasu, Didi's Wrath, which says auto wins card attacks. Your opponent chooses a card in their hand and discards it. And then you have, for some reason, you have SS Kaba, Wrathful Evolution in your deck. And that card says auto once per turn this card attacks. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it. Now let's say we're playing a yellow deck with 1 energy open, or we're playing against a red or green deck with 2 energy open. We should be reading that our opponent is going to respond with the corresponding Floodgate, Mecha Freeze, Robotic Riposte in yellow, Total Registrate in red, all that good stuff, right? So with that in mind, we know that we're getting 1 attack, and then if, you know, let's say we don't have a way to stop our opponent's Floodgate, we're not attacking for the rest of that turn, right? Because we're not going to attack through those cards. We're not going to pay the cost that they require us to pay. So we want the attack to go through that's going to get us the most value. A lot of players will just instinctively attack with their leader to get that draw, but that might not always be the right play. Don't get me wrong, in a lot of scenarios that is going to be the right play. You're going to want to attack with your leader to get that extra draw to make sure you have the defenses going into your opponent's next turn. But let's say we're in this type of scenario. Let's say that I'm playing the green deck, I'm at 10 cards in hand. Let's say my opponent's playing the red deck and they're at 4 cards in hand. In that scenario, I think it's a really good play to attack with Fuse Zamasu, Didi's Wrath, putting them even lower in hand size and just crippling the resources that they have at their disposal, right? Like, with that card disparity, it seems to me that you really don't need that 1 extra draw off of Gotenks when you can attack with Zamasu, who himself can't really be removed from the board very easily. I guess if we're playing against red, it can be a little bit more easily, but it being a rest mode doesn't actually practically matter. So attack with that, make them lose another card. Now the card disparity is even further, and they're feeling the effects of, you know, their low hand size. Let's bring up Kaba into the example now. What if your opponent has a huge problematic battle card in play and you really need to get rid of that? You have 1 attack for the turn to get this effect off. Let's just assume you don't have some sort of enter play KO effect. So you're going to want to attack with that Kaba to make sure you can clear that threat, because when it goes back to your opponent's next turn, they won't have that threat to potentially kill you with, right? So it's going to be really important to analyze that situation and make the corresponding play, again, with a sound line of logic following it up. But anyways, yo, Dragon Ballers, real quick, I need to let you guys know about 2 events that are coming up soon, being hosted by PPG. All the info will be down in the description, but we have the Dragon Ball Super Card Game Fest from March 26th to the 27th. This is going to be the first ever event where they are trying out the sideboarded best of 1 format. Besides that, it'll just be a celebration of the Dragon Ball Super Card Game, so you're not going to want to miss it. The other one is for organized play through the Pro Play Tour. We have the regional qualifier April 2nd in Kentucky, shots to the Midwest, so you're definitely not going to want to miss that. Shout out to PPG because they run awesome tournaments, but also besides that, this is a thing I've been concerned about in the past, where these tournaments just don't get enough advertisement. So shout out to PPG for doing more and putting in more work to advertise these events. I hope to see you guys there. Let's get back into the video. Going on to our next example here. This is one that I actually also find really interesting. So again, let's say we're playing against any deck that has a Floodgate, like Robotic Riposte, Topo Registrate, whatever, right? And we're playing, let's say we're playing an aggro deck. Let's say we're playing Gogeta Xeno, and we use Super Kamehameha against Robotic Riposte. There are going to be a lot of opportunities where you can use Robotic Riposte that I think a lot of players are going to make this play, and they probably shouldn't have. You have to really consider when you're going to do this, what is your follow-up? Are you taking a life for Super Kamehameha, or are you paying energy for it? Because that's going to actually make a huge impact on the next turn if you don't kill your opponent that same turn. And then once you do the Super Kamehameha, and once you're stopping the Robotic Riposte, what is your follow-up? Are you able to swing with several battle cards, output a ton of damage? If you're really not in a position to be able to do that, it may not be the best idea to actually use the Super Kamehameha. You're actually probably going to just want to let the Floodgate resolve, and then, like we talked about before, just set up a kill turn, right? And here's another thing, another variable to factor in. You're playing against the yellow deck, it only costs them 1 to use Robotic Riposte, right? And if you Super Kamehameha that, how much energy do they have available after the fact? Do they have another open energy for just another Robotic Riposte, or maybe some sort of like mid-battle combat trick shenanigans? What are they going to be able to do following up? Now, don't get me wrong, if your opponent's got 1 energy, you have 5 battle cards in play, you swing, they're post, you Super Kamehameha, now you're just free reign to do whatever you want to them. That's a great scenario to be in. But against a higher level player, they're going to make sure that if they need to have extra defenses set up, they're going to have those defenses set up. So it's not always going to be the correct play to just automatically respond with Super Kamehameha. If you can, whenever your opponent uses a Floodgate card like this, you strongly need to consider what you have to follow that up and how much energy you're going to be left with after using Super Kamehameha. Again, like, you know, are you using off energy? Are you paying a life for it? That's very important as well. 9 times out of 10, if you're going to go for game past a Floodgate like this after using a Super Kamehameha, you're probably going to want to take that life anyway, just so that you can get the additional resource to your hand and then spend your energy in other ways. But depending on what you need to do, like if you need to use your Gogeta's, you know, leader effect to boost your 1-drops, for example, you got to kind of manage your life in a way that you can make sure you have enough life to do that. And that gets very specific into that matchup. But this is a very broad scenario. There are lots of colors that have these types of cards that can stop these Floodgate types of cards. And you got to make sure that you're using them appropriately and you're going to be able to follow up with appropriate pressure or whatever it is you have to do that turn. And the final example I have for you guys is a bit of a playstyle thing. So if I'm playing the U7 Goku deck, and this is actually a way that I think you can get proficient at the U7 Goku deck, there are 2 ways you can go about playing any given game. And that's why I think that Goku is really a true mid-range deck. You can go for the more boss monster oriented win style, going for Son Goku Ultra Mastery, wiping your opponent's board, attacking with dual attack, double strike, looking at their hand, all that good stuff. Or you can go wide and be more of an aggressive deck with the Universe of Survival battle cards. You have Golden Frieza, you have the Vegeta, and you have the Android 17. So knowing which avenue to go in a given matchup is super important. Against most aggro decks, I'm probably not going for Goku Ultra Mastery unless I've, you know, survived their kill turn and they're super low on resources and I can just slam it down the next turn and not be afraid of any counterplays or negates, right? But if my opponent's being super aggressive with me and they're not giving me that time to really make it to turn 4 safely, I'm not really going to want to tap out for a turn 4 boss monster if there's a chance that I might die the following turn, right? I'm going to want to play my lower to the ground battle cards and just try to win the attrition game that way. But vice versa, if I'm playing against a control deck that's very counterplay reliant, I might want to go into Son Goku Ultra Mastery because it has the deflect, because when I swing with it, I can look at their hand, take a resource away. They might negate the Ultra Mastery attack, but them negating that attack is going to get them 2 cards out of their hand, the card that I take from them, and the negate that they use for that, right? So that's really important to do, is to know how to navigate certain matchups and why you want to do it a certain way. And this could also change on the fly. You might have a game plan going into a matchup, but it's a card game. We're all going to draw different cards at different stages of the game. That's part of the RNG element of a card game, and being able to adjust on the fly is going to be very important. There are very few times that you can take just like hardened absolute rules as total gospel. You're gonna have to be very adjustable on the fly in this game, but again, you kind of have to make those logical steps as to why you're doing what you're doing. But anyways, guys, I hope this video was helpful. I know that we got into the weeds a little bit with some very specific examples, but I think there were a lot of general points you guys could definitely take home. Of course, guys, if you have questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll definitely make sure to give detailed answers if you guys want more information about this stuff. Thank you guys for watching, though, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Alright, now that you guys finished watching that video, they should have never banned Child's Wish. They shouldn't. Super Shadow was the best deck in the game. Super Shadow was the best!